Leftist politicians are the new plantation owners.
Leftist politicians are the new plantation owners.
Leftist politicians are the new plantation owners.
And socialism is their slavery.
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 That does sound pretty convincing. Let's jump into it. Howdy folks, my name is Praxio, and today I'm going to be breaking down a video from Turning Point USA that I saw was being recirculated. It's a steaming hot pile of dog shit filled with virtue signaling, identity politics, propaganda, and just general misinformation. This is my first attempt at making a video, like ever. I really have no idea what the fuck I'm doing, and I'm just winging it. I know this video is a low-hanging fruit, but I couldn't help but respond after I saw it shared by some of my friends on Facebook. If you have any suggestions for future videos or things you want me to look at, please let me know. Be sure to subscribe and like this video, but only if you're an Antifa super soldier. Don't worry, I won't tell anyone. Thanks.
Abraham Lincoln, America's first Republican president, championed freedom for all Americans, regardless of their skin color.
Lincoln understood that it was morally wrong for a person to work and another person to take the reward for their labor. And this memorial right here, we built this memorial to commemorate the man who had the guts to destroy slavery right here in America.
Charlie Kirk and his 4 black friends want to make it very clear that it was a Republican president who freed the slaves. The right loves to jerk themselves off into a coma with this fact while ignoring or rejecting the platform switch that occurred in American history. Yes, we know, you guys love black people, but only when it comes to promoting your propaganda. God forbid a black person expresses any sort of sentiment outside of what you want them to say. Everyone knows that Charlie Kirk loves Black Lives Matter, the protests surrounding police brutality, or when anyone points out that systemic racism is an issue we face in today's America.
Many see slavery as a relic of the past, but the chains of slavery are as old as time, and they still exist today.
Oh boy, they sure do, buddy. But let me guess, it's not capitalism, the current system we live under, where you work for someone else, have no control over your position, and possess zero democratic power in the workplace where you spend the majority of your life. That sounds a lot like socialism to me.
And today we face another system that forces one group of people to work while another group of people benefits from the rewards of their labor.
In modern times, it's not called slavery, but it's called socialism.
Socialism is an economic system that gives politicians the ability and the authority to forcibly take your rewards and give it to those that didn't earn it.
Under socialism, politicians can take your money, your profits, your labor, and distribute them how they please, to whomever they please.
You know what I love about videos like this? They perfectly demonstrate the issues with capitalism while saying it's what will occur under the boogeyman of socialism. The absolute of this entire video is that when Marxists critique capitalism, they compare it to slavery. There are obvious inherent differences between the two systems, but they argue that the social relationships formed between the powerful and powerless are much more alike than different. This is also true for feudalism. The employer and employee are no different from the slave and slave master or the serf and the lord. Either Charlie Kirk is aware of this and knowingly misleading his audience, or he's ignorant because he thinks the Communist Manifesto will turn him into some sort of soy boy beta cuck. Anything is possible though. I just figured his brain might be a bit larger considering how small his face is. I mean, look at this thing. Anyways, there are a few issues with his constant reference of politicians and also how they appropriate the profits and labor. Firstly, the process that the speakers in this video claim to be afraid of is precisely what happens under capitalism. Just replace the word politicians with capitalists. Capitalists appropriate the surplus labor and profits of the workers that they employ and do whatever the fuck they want with it. Secondly, I don't really know what kind of leftist politicians that they're talking about. Bernie Sanders was one of the most progressive candidates in our recent history, and the Democratic National Convention practically assassinated the man in cold blood. The right has been doing this a lot lately. They conflate more left-leaning principles with the corporate Democrats, and that's just absurd. Joe Biden is much closer to Donald Trump than he is Karl Marx. Not only does this further the fear-mongering of leftist ideologies by claiming socialism is inherently evil without any context or substantive reasoning, but it allows them to pull the Overton window even further towards the right. For those of you who don't know what the Overton window is, it's a range of policies deemed politically acceptable by a mainstream population at any given time. So by making incredulous claims like socialism is equivalent to slavery, they are effectively pulling mainstream thought closer to the right. This isn't even necessarily a bad thing, except they're using tactics like fear-mongering to propagate this belief. And also that a large portion of the right hates anyone that isn't straight and white or anyone that doesn't conform to their myopic worldviews.
Under socialism, politicians live lavish lives. They live like modern plantation owners, profiting off the backs of those who worked and taking their bread.
But hey, at least everyone's equal. Equally poor, equally hungry, and equally oppressed.
Sound familiar?
Does that sound familiar?
Sound familiar?
Does that sound familiar? Because to me, that sounds like slavery.
It sounds like slavery.
Because that sounds like slavery to me.
That's because it sounds like slavery.
Amen, comrade. It is absolutely called slavery. The wage slaves that watch this video and make around or less than the median average salary within the United States will continue to propagate this bullshit. The current workers within America do not realize that they're being exploited, and so misinformation campaigns like this make it much harder to convince them otherwise.
It is wrong for the politician class to take from the people who are doing the labor and then distribute it amongst themselves, the people that did not work to earn it.
The fruits of your labor should be spent on you. Leftists support the tyranny of socialism. Leftists support giving the government full control over our money and our labor.
We can agree, when someone steals your labor, when someone steals what you worked hard for, that's called slavery.
What percentage of stealing your labor is not slavery? 50%? 60%?
At some point, the politician, plantation owners will always want more.
You're absolutely right, friend. They will always want more. We can historically see this point. This is not fiction, and we don't have to assign arbitrary values or percentages. The Economic Policy Institute has a graph that demonstrates that around 1972, the hourly compensation for work and productivity split from one another. As productivity rapidly shot up, hourly compensation barely rose. From 1979 to 2018, compensation has gone up 11.6%, while productivity has gone up 69.3%. And that's the sex number. But I don't think it's the capitalists that are getting fucked here.
Lincoln had a message for slave owners in America, and it went like this. It is strange that any men should dare ask a just God's assistance in wringing their bread from the sweat of other men's faces.
Lincoln described slavery as you toil and work and earn bread and I'll eat it.
Essentially, you work and I get your money.
Lincoln understood that it is morally wrong to force someone to work so that someone else can eat the rewards of that labor.
Wow, I didn't know Lincoln was such a radical leftist. I would definitely agree that it is morally wrong for someone to work and have someone else reap the rewards of that labor. But again, how could that possibly be socialism when things like socialism were created to give the most amount of power to workers and not their corporate overlords? See, the problem with this video and anything that comes from the cesspool of PragerU, Steven Crowder, Ben Shapiro, Turning Point USA, is that they take advantage of a historical amnesia and a lack of education commonly found in the United States.
And that's exactly what slavery is. It's an economic system that subjugates other people to work so that someone else can reap the reward of their labor. And that is immoral.
That is immoral.
That is immoral.
Leftist politicians are the new plantation owners.
Leftist politicians are the new plantation owners.
Leftist politicians are the new plantation owners.
And socialism is their slavery.
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 I mean, what else can I say about this trash? To continue my earlier point about historical amnesia, videos like this always neglect the positive impact socialists have had on our history. Socialists are the reason we have a 40-hour work week, unemployment, social security, Medicare, child labor laws. It wasn't that long ago when we had children climbing into tight spots in factories just so capitalists could make an extra dollar or two. We wouldn't know any of that by this video though. All I really learned is that socialism is just the new capitalism. Thanks if you stuck around the whole time and watched me ramble about something as absurd as politics. Even so, it is something that I'm very passionate about, and I plan on making more content breaking down right-wing videos like this one. In addition to that, if these videos end up getting some traction, I plan on streaming as well. It will most likely be a combination of politics and video games. I'm still in the process of setting up new social media accounts to link this channel to. When I get to doing that, I'll be sure to add them. Thanks again.